Hey there, everyone. We are back at it again this week with another thrifty Christmas video. Since this was going to be the first Christmas in our new home, I knew I wanted to make it extra special with one-of-a-kind pieces. However, still being budget conscious and just making sure I make the most out of each and every one of my purchases. So a lot of today's projects are going to be either thrifted items or items that I have purchased from a clearance bin, and with just a little bit of creativity and some minor changes, you can get inspired and create some beautiful pieces for this Christmas season. So with all that being said, let's get started. My name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to mi casa. So back during Vlogtober, I shared with you guys a little trip to the thrift store, and this is one of the items that I purchased there. And it's this porcelain or ceramic little container that looks like an ornament. And I was so excited because I had seen so many of these ornaments filled with candle wax inside of them. And they're just so beautiful, yet they're quite expensive for the really good ones. Now you can definitely get some of these at your local Dollar Tree or even like Home Goods, but most of the time I find that I don't really care for the scents already included in them. I'm very particular when it comes to candle smells. So I actually have my own candle making like supplies and stuff, and I just decided to make my own the way that I would enjoy them. So as you can see, I removed all of the stickers and I sanded the surface of the ornament down. Then I took it outside and spray painted the little cap with some oil rub bronze. Afterwards, I came in with a champagne colored spray paint in order to give it the first base coat. And then I used some metallic gold paint as well as a little bit of flat black paint to give it a more of a dimensional look, as well as add a couple of black flecks throughout so that it looks a little bit more vintage in nature. Then I let the paint cure for at least 24 hours before the next step, and I just put 3 wicks in the center of the container. I didn't think one was going to be enough because it does get pretty wide in the center of the container, so I just went ahead and added 3. Plus this little container does hold a lot of wax, so I set the wicks and then I poured over my very own version of apple cinnamon because Nelson and I absolutely love the scent of apple cinnamon throughout the entire Christmas season. Now, of course, creating your own candle doesn't have to be as complicated or as involved, and sometimes it just takes a simple little container, jar, or glass like this. And I found this at a Goodwill for only a couple dollars, and it just gives me that high-end Ralph Lauren votive look. It's just so beautiful, and I think something like this is perfect in order to create a beautiful candle. And of course, this would make a wonderful gift for someone this holiday season because not only are you giving them something handmade, but something completely unique in this gorgeous crystal container. Now, I haven't always been a nutcracker person, but as you guys recall, I did just create my very own set of nutcracker ornaments, so they've been growing on me. And one of the best ways that I love to buy these is unfinished, so I can just do whatever I want with them. And I did get these on clearance from last Christmas for over 60% off at Hobby Lobby, so these only cost me a little over $3 a piece. Now, I wanted to do something a little bit different to this because I did see this etched brass nutcracker on the Magnolia's website, and I thought even though mine's not a metal nutcracker, I can still give it this look. And again, I just took some more of that champagne bronze spray paint and just decided to spray paint them completely all over with this spray paint. Now, this spray paint has actually done quite a bit of work for this Christmas season because I've used it on several projects. And again, it's just another way to make things a little bit more cohesive and cost effective by using the same color over again in different DIYs for your decor. And lastly, I just added a little bit of felt that I hot glued underneath so that it would protect any surfaces that I would put it on. I'm loving these containers that I am finding at my local Goodwills, and I found this little gift box that had a cute little more juvenile pattern on the outside, and I was able to buy it for $5. However, it wasn't really my aesthetic, so I decided to give it a paint job, and sometimes it doesn't always work out. The first thing I decided to do was give it a good clean, then sand it so that I can make the surface nice and smooth since the little images were kind of raised. Now, I had been spray painting everything pretty much gold, so I decided to try this like wine color that was in a super gloss. And if you look at my cap right there that I'm holding, it looks more of like the red that I was going for, but as I'm spray painting, you can see that it's more plum. And so wasn't quite what I was going for. And of course, this is how the little box looks like with that first color of spray paint. And I just had to change it up. So I took it back outside. And the only other color that I had on hand besides the gold was white. That still went with my Christmas theme. So I decided, well, let's go ahead and do that. And I gave it several light coats, ensuring that I covered up that plum color. Now, this next step, I was a little hesitant to do it at first, but then I braved it because obviously I had already messed it up once and I didn't want to mess it up again. But I decided to take some rub and buff and just kind of paint the bow that was on top of the box to kind of give it something a little bit more unique and a little bit more high end. And so I took a small brush and just began applying it very carefully, ensuring that I didn't get any rub and buff anywhere else on the little gift box. And that's kind of how I left it. But now I'm debating whether or not I should take that gold and run it down the ribbon that's obviously runs down the sides of the gift box, right? And again, I didn't do any more because I was scared that I would mess it up. But let me know what you think. Should I continue the gold on the ribbon pieces or should I just leave it as is? All right, so for this next one, we've all seen these little match cloches that everybody tries to replicate, but I'm a little different than everyone. In fact, I'm probably a little weird. So when I saw this container for some Fireplace matchsticks on Magnolia's website, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And lo and behold, my local Goodwill did not let me down, and I was able to find this old school straw container for only $5. So first things first, straws had to go. I had no idea where they had been. Then I gave everything a nice clean. And then I taped up the inside. I didn't want to spray paint the inside of it because if I did end up wanting to use it for a straw container in the future, I wanted it to continue being, food safe. So I decided to tape up the inside and just use some leftover copper paint that I had on hand from when I painted my lanterns for the exterior of my home. I still had some of it. Then once that was dry, I came back inside and added some rub and buff to the top little knob. And obviously that wasn't necessary, but I really was trying to replicate the original as closely as possible. Now I was able to find these longer matchsticks online and I'll link to them in case you're interested, but they were just a little bit too long for the container. So I just had to cut the ends off a little bit in order for them to fit. Then I took the striker off of the box and adhered it to the bottom of the glass jar so that I was able to use the striker. Now I use hot glue because I didn't want it to be permanent in case I needed to switch it up down the road. Now, way back in January of this year, I purchased 3 of these little glass shades that go on light fixtures, and I only got them for $1.99 a piece, and I just love the way these were cut. They reminded me a lot of that crystal container that I used to make a candle earlier in this video. So I was excited because I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. The first thing I needed was a couple of these round discs, and I did purchase these in the unfinished section of Hobby Lobby, and they were just a couple of dollars a piece. And of course, you got several in each bag. This isn't a new concept. This has been out for a while, and I saw these on Pinterest like a couple of years ago, and I just knew I had to do them. So basically, I'm going to be making bells out of these, and I needed the discs in order to cover and seal the hole up top so that I can put the little drawer pull that I've been using for other projects to create ornaments. I knew I was going to use them for these as well. So as you saw, I just basically used some watered down antiquing wax in order to give them a nice rustic stain. And then I took some super glue and began to add a little bit of super glue where the little pull met the knob. And this is because I didn't want the handle to flip down. I wanted it to stay nice and upright when I had completed the bells. Now, if you decide to use this, I will advise you against using crazy glue, because I did do some testing after I had assembled these and they popped right off. So I went back in with E6000, and that was able to give it a much better and safer hold. So do as I say and not as I do in this instance. Because of course, after we do all of this work to get these beautiful bells completed, you don't want them to fall and break. I also wanted them to actually function like a real bell. So I had these little finials, and I had 3 of them, again from the unfinished wood section at Hobby Lobby, and I did the same technique of just watered down antiquing wax for these as well. I removed the excess antiquing wax and then I let them dry, and then I took some leather string and hot glued it onto them as well as onto the bells, and here's how they turned out. And you can see that these definitely are sturdy and holding tight. For this next DIY, I got these ornaments from a consignment shop in their after Christmas sale, and they only ended up being 75 cents a piece. Now they're already red, but I needed a deeper red because it's kind of hard to tell in the camera. They were kind of like a really bright, obnoxious red, and I really wanted them to be a little bit more of a luxurious red, right? So I had this acrylic paint on hand, and I just began to paint it, and I actually gave these at least 2 to 3 coats because I really wanted to make sure I covered everything, and sometimes acrylic paint doesn't paint on as evenly as you would like it to. Now what's interesting is that Home Depot has these that are very similar, and you get 3 of them for $36, while these I got I think 9 of them and they were 75 cents a piece. So that's a pretty big score. Now these came with some jute rope in order to hang them, but I had this spool of jewelry making leather, and I thought it would just be a little bit more elegant in order to replace those. Now here's another ornament that's really simple that anybody could do. I got these glass ornaments again last year from their clearance sale, so they were very inexpensive. However, you can find these at Dollar Tree if you want plastic ones, or you can find them at Hobby Lobby in both plastic and glass. These happen to be glass. I happen to have this faux snow that I decided to use inside of each of the ornaments. Now, my inspiration was a little bit different, but we're just going to approach this in a different manner in order to achieve a similar look. Now this part's simple because all you're doing is filling it up with snow, but it does get a little messy. Then it's time for the bow, and I wanted to share how to make this bow in particular for you to hang on your Christmas tree that you can use on any single ornament that you have on hand. Now you're going to want a long piece of ribbon. This one for reference is 26 inches long, and the width of this ribbon is 5/8. Now what you're going to do is pull in the folded edge of the ribbon through the little hoop on the ornament cap. Next, you're going to take the opened edge of the ribbon, loop it over and back under onto itself through that same little hoop. Now you want to make sure the ends of your ribbon are burned so that they don't fray during this process. Try to get it as taut as you can, and you're going to have something like this. Next, you're going to take the two ends of the ribbon and you're going to make one loop with one, and then you're going to wrap the other one around onto itself so that you can make a bow. Now because this is velvet and not two-sided ribbon, you want to flip the ribbon after you've looped it over, making sure that the velvet is on the front, and then you pull it through and then you adjust your little pieces of ribbon. Now this may take a few tries, but this does become a little bit easier the more you do it. Next one will show you that you can take something that looks really farmhouse and you can turn it into something elegant just by changing the color of it. I found this little, I guess, terrarium at Goodwill, and it was a little bit more expensive at $7.99, but I had an idea and I wanted to test it out. So I brought it home, I cleaned it up, and I began applying Rub and Buff all over it. Now this one is going to be a little bit detailed and time consuming because you want to make sure, you get all the nooks and crevices. But the overall method to everything is very simple. So with the help of a brush, I began to apply it. Now I did want to share this little trick of using a sticky note pad whenever doing something like this. And basically I would just put it up to the very edge and adhere it onto the glass, paint my little section, and then once I'm done, I remove the little sticky note, move it on another side of the glass, and then paint that area. This way I didn't have to worry about taping anything down or just wasting a lot of time prepping it. This was super easy, super quick, and I thought I'd share this because it was extremely helpful. Well, that wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below which one of these thrifty DIYs was your favorite. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so. I have more videos to come your way. I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you back here very soon in the next one. Until then, adios.